All right. So took a little while to get everything set up. It took 3 days to put together and fabricate, but finally got this done. But today I'm going to go over installing a radio right there uh, on the golf cart and show you guys what I did. All right. All right. So even though it's daytime, it's overcast. It's been storming. It was thunderstorming a few minutes ago. But I figured I'd do this. So I'm going to talk about putting in this radio. And let me first say that if you look up a Yamaha G29 radio on eBay, you're going to see the consoles that either go up in here in place of where the golf ball holders are, or the ones that mount up actually right where those little pre-fenced spots for drilling that you can mount up there. But those, they're just plastic. They cost anywhere from $200 to $400 and some odd dollars, which is just ridiculous for a piece of plastic. And most of the time, they don't even come with the radio or speakers. So then that's an additional cost, and it's really just housing a car radio and two speakers. So, the radio for a car, I mean, you can find them as low as $20, and then just, you can go up from there to your heart's content. And then speakers, same thing. You can find them $20 for a pair, and then you can move on pretty much infinity after that. So it doesn't make sense to me to spend $400 on a piece of plastic when there's already a industry out there that's made these small radios that are the same thing as a car radio, just more compact. But it's the motorcycle market. So if just for fun, go type in Yamaha G29 radio, go type in a car radio, and then go type in motorcycle radios, and you'll see a huge price drop in a motorcycle radio compared to anything else out there. So that's actually what this is. It's classified as a motorcycle radio. There's many different styles. There's many different speaker setups. There's many different head units, which is the actual radio unit itself. So shop around, see what you like. For me, I mounted it up front here. That's just how I wanted to do this, especially how I have the cold air intake and then some wires running from the RGB lighting through the back here. I just kind of wanted to put the radio up there. But if I did it again, I would probably look at a motorcycle radio that looks like it's a tube. I think it's only about 24 inches wide or something like that. And I would mount it just in between the seats here, just in this little void. There's some bars back here that it could easily mount to, and then you can just run a positive and negative down to the battery. Simple as that. But for me and this radio, I ran a positive and negative up to the front of the golf cart, which feeds that radio and speaker. To show you guys what I did, because I'm a fan of just cutting off the power and not having a draw. If you're looking right near the shifter, you guys will find that there is it's a factory hole. And actually, hold on a second. You'll actually find a factory hole with a little plastic cap on it that goes right there where that switch is. And what I assume is the fact that there's a metal bracket behind it. I'm assuming that this is actually where they would put a choke if you have a carbureted golf cart. And then instead of redoing the body or anything, they just put a little plastic cap on it, pops right out, and it is a 7/8 hole. So I went to Advance Auto and found a 7/8 little rocker switch that has a little green LED light showing that power is going through it. But I figured that was a pre-drilled hole that was already there. It was kind of conveniently located. You can just reach down and flip it on instead of drilling more into the center console, which is not a bad option, especially considering that there's already a bunch of switches and buttons already up here. So I figured I'd just utilize that little hole already, and since the power is coming from the battery, kind of snake in right by that, following the little channel that the factory wiring is going through, and then up to the center console. I figured that was just a fun spot to put the button. Kind of switches things up. So positive, negative from the battery to a switch, routing through the existing cable area, and then it pops out underneath the center console, which I've showed in previous videos where there's already a bunch of wiring. It just naturally comes up to that point, and then it feeds the head unit. So take a look at motorcycle radios and see if anything there works for you. They're a lot cheaper than just about anything else out on the market, and they're not half bad. They sound all right for what you're buying. But let's talk about the head unit here. So, let's see if I can set this up for you guys. Alright, so the head unit itself is made out of aluminum, and it has these little flanges out the side that you could screw down to plastic or mount it. Because I still somewhat use this cubby hole, like I'll throw my wallet in here, or just, like, I don't know, a bottle of water or something like that. I didn't want to mount it directly to the bottom of this cubby. So what I did was went to Ace and bought a rubber plug, and it's down in the little hardware section. I believe it's a 1 5/8 diameter plug, and it's at the widest point, and then it tapers up. I super glued that to the bottom of the head unit, and I let it sit for 24 hours, and it's held strong. So gave it enough time for it to cure, and haven't had any issues. And it really helps absorb any shock that the golf cart would transfer to that head unit. And then, let me see if I can transition this for you guys. Underneath, let's see, where is it? Yep. So right here, those 4 screws right here are just coarse threaded screws that I have drilled up through the plastic into that rubber I guess puck, I guess you could call it. Ooh, there we go. Flashlight's about to die. Into that rubber puck. So if I need to remove this for whatever reason, come on, Mr. Flashlight. Oh, I guess it's just kind of a bad switch. Sorry about that. So self-tapping screws into the rubber puck, and then the radio head unit is super glued onto the puck itself. And that just helps with vibration. Then the 3 white wires that you see, I've just used a little bit of duct tape to tape those up to the top here. Those are antennas for the radio and for the keyed remote, which it came with a remote. And I actually didn't know this when I bought it. Not only does this key fob control the head unit if you want to play, pause, skip, volume up, volume down, this thing has a sound system, a car alarm built into it, into the sound system itself. So you can arm it, and if the head unit feels any vibration, like somebody's picking up a bike or you're rocking around on this thing, it will set it off, and it is obnoxiously loud. But it's a funny little thing to go along with the absurdity of this golf cart. As if the golf cart wasn't visually loud enough, and now it is audibly. So the antennas are taped up there just to get better reception, and then I've drilled a hole into the corner at a 45-degree angle as best I could in there to allow the wires to get out of this cubby system into the center console. So that's where the power comes through, and that's where the speaker wires go in and out from. Now, from there, you can mount your speakers anywhere. These are pod speakers like you would see on the back of wakeboarding boats, and they have tube clamps. I guess you could say they're meant to be handlebar clamps. So they use this is you could say a glorified wing nut, essentially, so you could do it by hand. But it's meant to go on the handlebars of your motorcycle. But you could mount those if you wanted. You can mount them up on the canopy like you would see on a wakeboard boat, which is kind of cool. But I wanted to keep it local. I didn't want to have to run a bunch of wires throughout the golf cart. So this is what I came up with. So there's 4 speakers running from that head unit, and the way I have it mounted is I'm using, this camera does not want to focus. I'm using these are PVC pipe hangers that you would secure the PVC to like a wall underneath your house, stuff like that. Why can't this thing autofocus? I use 2 self-tapping screws into the little holes that are already pre-drilled in there, and then it wraps around the PVC pipe almost 360 degrees. There's a little cut in there, and then I used 1 coarse threaded screw, the same thing that I used to mount to screw the head unit inside the golf cart. Just screw that through the clamp into the PVC, so that way this thing can't slide back and forth or rotate. I'm trying to find and see if I can find a nice black end cap for that to finish off. I don't like the white. I feel like it's unfinished, so either I'll find something or 3D print something. So it's 1/2 inch PVC pipe across. In the middle, there's a T connection that, let me see if I can show you guys here. It's a T connection, directly goes to a 45-degree connection, and then just a little bit more of 1/2 inch PVC that is resting on top of here. And you guys can see that there are these body rivets, these little plastic body rivets. There was one right in the middle. It is centered on the body of the golf cart. It is in the middle. I drilled that out so that I could run the speaker wires from underneath the console up into the PVC pipe system, mounting system, and then I just drilled a little hole in the back, and they go right to the speaker. So if you notice, I'll show you guys, you notice that the pipe here is in the middle of the body. It's in the exact middle of the body, but it's not in the middle of the center console, and that's because the center console is offset to the passenger side. They do that for convenience. They do that because you have a steering column. So I took that hole, I drilled it out. I think I used a 3/8 drill bit, so it's a significantly bigger hole, but it allowed to pass through the little connectors for the speaker unit to go through there. So that's what I've done. I did the little clamp on the other side with the 2 self-tapping screws, and then, sorry, the light, it's getting dark out. It's about to thunderstorm again. But that's how I have it mounted up, and it's actually pretty solid. It is definitely not intended for anybody to grab this and hang on to it, mount anything else to it. It's purely to mount the speakers. So don't use that as a grab bar or anything. But this is what I've come up with. Hopefully this sparks any ideas for you guys. And then as far as the foam goes, I don't want just bare PVC pipe showing on here. And in all honesty, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the flagpole, because I still haven't done anything with that. But the foam was a nice quick cover up that I just cut segments for to cover it up, and then zip tied it to match the color scheme. But that's what you find in a race car. So anywhere where the driver is sitting, any place that he can come into contact with his body with the roll cage, you have to pad it. So since this thing is kind of already resembling what we're going to see at VIR, hence the stickers and the race group, I figured it'd be kind of cool to add something that resembled a roll cage. I mean, if it's already a bar or a tube, I mean, throwing a little foam on there looks kind of cool. So that's what I've come up with, and hopefully when you guys shop on the internet or whatever you find, you guys can see what I've done, and see if you guys can either improve on that, or at least it gives you an idea of what you can do. The other cool thing that this radio came with is a very cool, let me turn on the power, remote.
Maybe you think you have to clean up the garage and fix up the kitchen. Hi, this is Mark Spain, and I'm here to tell you don't.
Ooh. All right. So that's at one volume. These things can actually put out some noise. But I have this mounted to the turn signal system right here, and it doesn't interfere with anything with the steering wheel or the column. I'm going to turn that off so I don't have to talk over it. It doesn't interfere with anything else, but it mounts nicely right here. I can play, pause, skip forward, skip back, change the input, and I guess I can change the EQ from here, the actual quality of the sound. So this model came with a remote. It came with 4 speakers. It came with the head unit, and the head unit can have the inputs are radio, Bluetooth, micro SD card, 3.5 millimeter jack input, like a headphone auxiliary cable, and a USB. I mean, it's everything you could ask for. It's compact. It has every type of input minus a CD. And if you have a little bit of age underneath you, a cassette tape. I kind of miss those. Those were cool. But see if I can show this one more time. It is really hard to get a good picture in a very tight, confined area here. So let's see if I can point this out. Here's your USB, 3.5 millimeter jack, and then the SD card is right above that. And I've put a micro SD card in there, a 3.5 millimeter plug, and a USB rubber plug in there, just to keep dirt and dust from getting in those tiny little crevices of the unit itself. I'm sorry guys, this is terrible video quality, but gotta work with what I've got. So I wasn't a fan that it came red and I couldn't find a blue one. I like this green and blue and black setup. But I like the fact that I've got it mounted so far back in there, you don't really see any of the red. And then when you turn it on, the actual buttons and the remote here, they're blue. So it couldn't have been any better. And actually, let me just be sure I show you guys. It uses a cable to the little console remote that I have running down the protector for the turn signal system. I just have it running down right there. I'll probably tuck that away a little bit nicer in the future. Just let the heat kind of soften it and make it more malleable. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. It took 3 days to fabricate that. Just kind of had to make it up as I go. And, you know, when you drill in holes, you only get one chance. So it wasn't the quickest. It wasn't the easiest install, but I'm really happy with the outcome. So hopefully this gives you guys an idea of what you can do as far as a radio goes for this thing. And we're going to use it not only for music, but you can tune into the actual commentary of the race when you're at the racetrack. Over a radio station. So where we end up camping out, we can't really hear it that well from the intercom system. So this is actually going to help us during the race. But yeah, nice little addition. Y'all have a good one.